on page 31. Second. Page 31, we're going to another subject, which is, of course, a major subject of Pesach, and that is the mitzvah of eating matzah. So, of course, we know, but the Torah says, we just read it yesterday, the part that's written in the Haggadah, why do we eat matzah? Because the Yidden were rushing and racing out of Mitzrayim, and they were going so fast that there was no time for the dough to rise and the bread to become leavened bread. So to commemorate that, we also eat matzah. So let's explain, though, what is matzah according to Chassidus. Okay, so in Chassidus, you'll always find, whether it's a maimer, whether it's a sicha, that when it talks about matzah, it'll use the term michla de mehem nusam. This is the word that you have on the top of the page. Again, we're on page 31. Michla de mehem nusam, which means food of emunah, food of faith. Or someplace it'll translate bread of faith. It's all the same. The second word on the page, number 2, is michla dasrasa, food of healing. Where does it come from? What's the source that matzah is related to emunah, or that matzah is related to healing? So the source is the Zohar. The Zohar explains the mitzvah of matzah with a mashal, and says there was a king. He had a son, a prince, and the son was very sick. And then someone came along to heal the son. And this person who was healing the son said that first thing we need to do is that he has to stop eating all foods. It's not good for him. He has to eat one specific kind of food. And he does that for 8 days. And after that, he can go back to eat all his regular food, he'll be healed. So the mashal is the same with Hashem, that we were Mitzrayim, and as a result of being Mitzrayim, which was the lowest place in the world spiritually, Eretz Haaretz, so it means it was the lowest place spiritually, with all the inyanim which were immoral, everything was, Mitzrayim was at the lowest level. And therefore, we were spiritually not well. So Hashem said, for the next 8 days, you can't eat regular food, and only eat a certain food, which is a medicated food, and that's the matzah. And after that, now that you brought you back to health, you can go back to eat regular food. So what do we see from this? That matzah is both. Matzah is healing, and Azar also says it gave us our emunah in Hashem. So, as mentioned many times, that one of the key differences between we understand mitzvahs from a Chassidic perspective and the way we understand mitzvahs from the general perspective of Torah is when you speak about mitzvahs in general, it's more about a symbol. Matzah symbolizes that we went out of Egypt and we ate matzah. According to Chassidus, it's not just a symbol. Matzah is actually something which makes things happen spiritually. And just like food is not just a symbol. When you eat food, it does things to the body. It's nourishment for the body. And a scientist will tell you all the details, what happens when you take the food, what gets changed, what gets transformed. This goes into the blood, this goes here, this goes there. Spiritually, matzah is a spiritual food. Then when we eat matzah, it gives us spiritual strength, but specifically in the area of emunah. Nevertheless, where's there a connection between going out of Mitzrayim and emunah? Where do we find such a connection? I mean, we know they were slaves and they were suffering, and they left Egypt and also the Egyptian way of life. But why specifically Amunah? So it's based on a pasuk. If you turn to page 33, it's a pasuk. This page 33 is a pasuk in, I think it's Shayahu. Looks like the top of the page. I think it's Shayahu. Okay, what is the pasuk? What does the pasuk say? Oh, here's a chumash. I'll find it over here. 1 second. Might as well give it to you as it is. We'll just find it. No, I'm going to have to ask for another second. I hope you don't know how to count. So that won't be a problem. Okay. I guess I can't find exactly where it is, because I thought I did know where it was. Okay, it's a pasuk where the Eibishter, using the analogy of Kadosh Baruch Hu, the husband, where the wife and Hashem is, and going to Har Sinai was like a marriage. So here, look at the pasuk. It says like this, one that's underlined. It starts off with Ve'irastich li la'olam, ve'irastich li b'tzedek u'b'mishpat. I will betroth you to me forever. I will betroth you to me with righteousness, with justice, with kindness, with mercy. And I will betroth you to me with fidelity, and you will know Hashem. In Hebrew, I don't know what fidelity means, but in Hebrew, it's Ve'irastich li be'emunah, with emunah. So the Gemara says, being that it says two things. Number one, Virastic b'tzedek u'b'mishpat. Mishpat is justice and judgment. And it ends over, Virastic b'amuna, with amuna, which is with faith. So the Gemara says that when we went out of Mitzrayim, that was the process of marriage, which was with amuna, because we didn't have the Torah yet. We didn't have the chokhmah, the wisdom of Hashem. So our connection to Hashem and our commitment to Hashem was based on faith. On the other hand, once we got the Torah, then we can say that Hashem's marriage to us is with seichel. So in other words, first it started off with amuna, only amuna, and then it goes to seichel. So therefore, we see that from the Gemara, it's connected to amuna. Also, there's another thing, which is number 4. Number 4 is also here. You can look at page 34. I didn't make a copy of the original source, but this is a copy from davening, because we say it on Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur. But it's from a pasuk in the Navi, Yirmiyahu, where it says, Kay Omer Hashem. Hashem says, I will remember you for the devotion of your youth, the love of your bridal days. What was it? That you went after me in the wilderness in an uncultivated land. In other words, what the Yidden did when they went out of Mitzrayim was total amunah. There were a few million people. They're going into a desert. In the desert, there's no food, and there's no stores. And how in the world are they going to survive? They did not know that Hashem is going to make a miracle and food is going to fall down from Shemayim. So clearly, they were just trusting Moshe Rabbeinu, trusting Hashem. Hashem said to go into the desert, everything will be okay. So again, it was based on their trust and their emunah in Hashem. And that's what happened in the original Pesach, that they were trusting in Hashem. So first, let's understand how we have emunah in general, and then we'll understand how it is that eating a matzah will give us emunah. What does that mean? How does that work? So one of the things that Chassidus explains in general, where and how is it that we have emunah? How could it be that an intelligent person, a person who is intellectual, and everything else in life they deal with in an intellectual way, they understand why, how, and it makes sense, and those are the things that I do. Things that don't make sense, I don't do. How is it that a person has emunah? A child doesn't have intellect, so they follow. But an adult, and in fact, the emunah that we know of is by adults who are on the highest level of intellect, people who are the most brilliant people in the world, and yet they had this simple faith. Where does it come from? So it says in Chassidus, it's natural for everyone to have this emunah. And the reason why it's natural is because, so we had this in a previous Maimon, we'll go over it briefly, so we'll see how it relates here. That has to do with the fact that the neshama, when it comes into the body, remember we learned that not the entire neshama goes into the body. Only a certain part of the neshama goes into the body. But there's a deeper part of the neshama. That part of the neshama remains in shamayim and doesn't descend into the body. And the explanation to that is not to imagine something in physical space. Geographically speaking, there's a part of the soul that's over there, like near Jupiter, and there's a part of the soul that's down here. When we say shamayim, and we say in the spiritual realm is not up there. The spiritual realm is here. It's a deeper reality of the world the way we know it. So it means there's a part of the neshama that doesn't change, doesn't lose the quality that it had before. Before it saw godliness, it heard godliness, it experienced godliness. It was all around it, saw angels and neshamas and Hashem's light and understood Hashem. All these things is a part of my neshama that part hasn't changed. It's still in touch and knows exactly what's going on up there because it's still there. But the neshama came into the body. So what we're saying is only a small part of the neshama actually descends in the body. So the reason why we don't feel all those things because it's a deeper part of the neshama. It's not consciously connected to the body. Yeah.
Is that the reason why sometimes a person can become inspired to do something because the soul up there is saying,
right.
Yeah.
That's how the Baal Shem Tov explains the fact that every day there's a heavenly voice that comes out from Shemayim. Again, take a look on Pirkei Avos on page 35. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, "B'chol yom v'yom." Every day, Basko Yotzes Mahar Chayil. There's a heavenly voice that comes out of Har Sinai. If any of you hear the heavenly voice, you don't have to identify yourself. But there are people who hear the voice. Well, you don't have to tell me that you're one of those people. But there are people that hear these voices. And it's coming from Har Sinai. And the voice is saying, Oilem Labrius Melbeina Shotera. Woe to those people that they embarrass the Torah. In other words, those people that they neglect Torah study, so in a sense, they're embarrassing the Torah. Hashem, imagine someone gives you a gift, something very precious, and you just dismiss it. That means that to you, this has no importance. That's the biggest offense that could be. There's another baskol that says, comes out also every day and says, Shuvu Banim Shevavim. So the Baal Shem Tov asked the question, who is the voice for? If it's for people that are tzaddikim and they hear heavenly voices, but they don't need these voices, they're already tzaddikim. And if it's for people who are not tzaddikim and they need the voices like us, then we don't hear the voices. What's the point? So Baal Shem Tov says, the voices are there for the ordinary people, true. We don't hear the voices, but our neshama hears it. And when the neshama hears it, the neshama gets flared up with excitement. And the excitement that the neshama experiences trickles down to our conscious neshama. And the Baal Shem Tov says, people find sometimes that without any sort of warning, without any introduction, anything that sort of could explain why a person could be davening, could be learning, or just going on about his day, and certain very positive feelings just come to him. He doesn't know where it's coming from. And the answer is because my neshama l'mayla hears these things. The neshama l'mayla gets all excited. And that excitement, I don't know what the neshama sees, but I feel the end result. The end result is the excitement, the inspiration, the uplifted feeling. So that's true. That's exactly what happens. And that's also what happens when a person does a mitzvah. And, out there, many people ask the question, what's the point of putting on tefillin? What's the point of telling a woman to light Shabbos candles? Lighting this Shabbos in honor of the soldiers in Israel. Someone told me that they were by a place where there were Jews demonstrating, and there were people protesters from the pro-Palestinian, pro-terror. Among the people protesting for the pro-terror were Jews, unfortunately. So one of the Bachar went over to one of these Jews and asked them to put on tefillin. I know it was a woman. He asked her to light candles. And she said, no, that's not me. So they said, do it for the people in Gaza who are suffering. Oh, okay, I'll do that. Okay. So she did it for them. So the question is, what's the point? That's what you're putting on. That's why you're lighting Shabbos candles. That's just for the Nefesh HaBahamis. That the Nefesh HaBahamis shouldn't interfere. But when she lights Shabbos candles, she doesn't see what's happening. But the Neshama L'mayla, her Neshama, will see a light that the Neshama will be dancing and singing and jumping out of his skin. And when the heart Neshama does that, the conscious part of Neshama will also feel something. And then one thing leads to the next. But the Rebbe, by the way, this is not what I was aiming at, but by the way, the Rebbe always explains that even if chas v'shalom, let's say there'll be no follow-up, person did a mitzvah one time, there's absolutely no continuation from that point on, it's still not what people think it is. People think it's something you did only one time. It says in Tanya, when you do a mitzvah, you're connecting to Hashem. Hashem is above time, past, present, future, it's all the same. Everything is eternal. The connection with Hashem is eternal, even though here it was 1 minute. Number three, another third thing is that the strength the person gets, the effect it has on the neshama, we don't necessarily know what it is, but it could be that this person down the line will have a test. Let's say they'll meet somebody who's not Jewish and they're struggling, should I go for it or not? And let's say they'll decide, it's not Jewish, I'm not going to do it. It could very well be that what gave them the strength to make that decision, it was because they lit the candles 3 months ago or 3 years ago. I remember once reading, it was about a person who came to the doctors because they had to take some sort of an MRI of the chest for a problem that they had. And then they told the person that they see scars that he had some very serious disease. He said he has no idea. He never was aware of it. Was never diagnosed with any disease. Never went to any doctors, which means they understood that the disease was there, and somehow on its own it went away. I know Hashem performs miracles, but there was, let's say, something begashmis that he did, certain foods he ate, or certain things he did, that made it go away. Which means there are things that foods have certain, natural foods have certain healing power, and he had no idea that this is what was happening. So same thing here, a person could be standing up to a test of intermarriage, a test of kashrus, a test of something else, and they pass the test. It could be a result of a tefillin or a mitzvah of candle lighting that I did a month ago or years ago. So basically, the neshama l'mayla sees everything. So the neshama l'mayla has emunah. What I mean by emunah means up there it's not emunah. It just has the absolute certainty of Hashem, like we have the absolute certainty that there's a table in this room. I don't need to have emunah that there's a table. I see the table. I have emunah for things I don't see. The neshama l'mayla sees godliness, so it doesn't need emunah. But it does have the absolute certainty of Hashem. So that certainty trickles down to the conscious part of the neshama, and that's where we all have a natural emunah in Hashem, absolute emunah in Hashem. Naturally, it comes from the part of my neshama that doesn't need emunah, it just sees Hashem. So that's the case Every yid should have emunah. What's the answer? Anyone remember the answer?
Is it like the kind of emunah that's like in case of emergency, break glass thing where it comes out when you're in a stressful situation like that?
It is, but the question, why doesn't it come out on a regular day? If my neshama l'mayla sees, and that's absolute certainty, and that should be projected in the conscious part of my neshama, every single yid should have emunah. And we say every yid does have emunah, but I don't feel it. Why don't I feel it if it's trickling down? Yeah?
Is it a deeper kind of emunah when we then like when we experience it down here? Because my throat. Because because the nefesh up there sees godliness, but we don't.
Right. So, but why wouldn't we feel what the nefesh is seeing? Because it's one soul. We're all connected. So obviously, the answer is that it's like how is it possible that there should be electricity in the source? Let's say in this case, it's in the basement, not on the roof. It's downstairs, not upstairs. It's in the basement, and yet there's no electricity coming to this floor. What would be the reason? Obviously, there's something wrong with the wiring. Somewhere, someplace, the wire was cut. There's water in the main pipe in the basement, but there's no water coming out of the sink. So they have to find out where the pipes are broken. Spiritually, there's also the same thing that when you do Torah and mitzvahs, the pipes are clear. When you do the opposite, the pipes get clogged. So the pipes are clogged. It's like the hardening of the arteries, where the chayes doesn't come through because it's blocking. So there are certain arteries, spiritual arteries, that bring what the neshama sees up there, and it's projected in the neshama down here. So it means that, yes, everybody naturally has emunah, but there could be certain things that could block it from flowing from up there down here. When we eat matzah, matzah enables that emunah that's up there to flow down here, and we'll feel more openly that emunah. The Gemara, interesting enough, gives another mashal. There's a lot of Maimarim explaining it with that. Number 7, this is a quote from Gemara. Ein hatinik yodeya likros abba. An infant, a child, not an infant, but a child doesn't really know to say the word Abba until it eats grain. In other words, a child, when the baby is born, normally the baby is nursing, just drinking milk. That's all it needs. And when a child starts getting a little bit older, they're eating regular foods. And only then do they have the ability to say Abba, which means to recognize. It's not just saying, it means the recognition in Abba. So in a sense, we Yidden, we came out of Mitzrayim also as infants, spiritually infants. And by eating the matzah, which is the dagan, the grain, now we could say Abba. Now we can recognize Hashem. So number 11 is the phrase from Gemara that Yidden are called Maminim b'nei Maminim, believers, the children of believers. In other words, that belief in Hashem is something which is inherently part of our genes. It's like we get this from one generation from the other generation. How could it be naturally? So the answer is because, in other words, when a person, let's say, does research about Yiddishkeit, they have a lot of questions. They go to the rabbi and the rebbitzin and they fight it out and they argue and they scream and they shout. And at the end, they start saying, yes, that's true. It's not that all the answers and the logic and the lecture is what gave them the emunah. According to Chassidus, they have the emunah, but there's things that are blocking. And those blockages create all the questions and the doubts. When I go to someone who gives me an answer to question, it's really removing the blockage and allows what's naturally there to flow.
So if the matzah goes to the bread, of the Muna, it means that it helped you somehow spiritually.
Right. That just by physically eating the matzah, it helps develop amuna, which is something spiritual. I mean, we know that even begashmias today, doctors, definitely those that are more into nutrition and those that are more into like natural healing will definitely associate different things that go on in the mind and different things that go on in the heart emotionally, that is connected to the foods that we eat. Certain foods may make us feel more up, and certain foods make us feel more down, and different effects on our emotional state comes from food. But here it's something deeper, that their food has a spiritual effect on the person, especially regarding emunah. So what we said before, that going out of Mitzrayim, that was emunah. When we came to Matan Torah, that's when we connected to say Hashem on the level of seichel, intellectually. Now we got a Torah, we got wisdom, something to learn, to study. And it's not that one is more important than the other, but as we know, that they both go together. That's what Nasa v'Nishma is. And it's like a building, that you have a foundation and you have a building. You can't have a building without a foundation. And a foundation without a building is also worthless. So basically, the foundation is Amunah. That's the foundation. These are like the roots of the tree. And the Amunah and the Seichel, the learning, that's the next step. So we're going to talk about this more, but this is the basic thing about going out of Mitzrayim and Matan Torah, that these are two stages in the marriage, like it says in the Pasuk. Ve'irastich, I will betroth you this way and that way, which means, number 12, I'm sure you might remember this from other times, that when you see a chasana, what you're witnessing at a chuppah years ago used to be two separate ceremonies. And they used to be separated by 12 months, which means going under the chuppah and the chassan giving the kala the ring, and by doing that, she becomes married to him. That will be the end of the ceremony. And then they would go, each one would go their way, get ready for the wedding. And in times of Gemara, it was a 12-month period, do whatever they needed to get ready. 12 months later was the second part, which they would say the Sheva Brachas, and then they'd have the Yichud, and that's when they became one.
Wow. Wow.
Why did they? In other words, what we have today as engagement and then marriage, then it was both were marriage, except one was stage 1, and one was stage 2. Stage 1, they were halachically married, and if there would be any kind of relationship with anyone else, that would be considered adultery in those days. But they didn't live together yet, intimately, like husband and wife. And there was this time in between. In fact, that's the reason why you read the Ksuvah by the Chuppah. Like, why do you have to read the Ksuvah out loud? It's a contract between husband and wife. Why does it have to be read out loud? So one of the reasons are to make a break between the two stages. And you'll notice that they have a cup of wine for the first stage, they drink it, then they fill up a new cup of wine. If you didn't notice yet, the Mircham by your chuppah, pay attention. Your eyes, you can't see anything, your eyes are covered. So better watch your friend's chuppah, okay. But you will know that you're going to be drinking wine twice, because it's two separate processes. This is called Kedushin, and this is called Erisin. It's the same. By the way, these are both the same. Number 12, it's two names for the same thing, Erisin and Kedushin. And the second stage is either called Nesuin. What's Nesuin? The Chuppah and the Yichud. That constitutes the second stage. And then they're husband and wife complete. So, what? 31. So when they went out of Mitzrayim, that was the marriage of Hashem with Yidden, but that was the first stage only. We weren't completely married yet. 49 days later, 50 days later, when we went to Har Sinai, that was the Nesuin, that was the completion of the marriage. That's when it was the culmination of the marriage between Hashem and Yidden. So spiritually, the first stage is Amunah, and the second stage is Seichel. And the difference is, the first stage was mainly leaving the past, leaving Mitzrayim. The second stage is bonding with Hashem. And you can say that the same with the marriage also. Before a woman is married, potentially she can marry anyone else, which means potentially she is open to all other men. She can choose to marry anyone else out there. And marriage means that I'm separating myself from everybody else, and I'm designating myself to this one person that I'm marrying. So in a sense, this what I'm saying now is not only Chassidus, it has ramifications in halacha. In a sense, Kedushin means, in fact, it says that the word Kedushin comes from the word that now everyone else becomes prohibited. Kedushin, the first stage is separating myself from everybody else. I'm no longer sort of open to any of the men out there. And Nisuyin is the second stage, and now I'm dedicating myself, I'm bonding with this person that I'm going to marry. So the first stage was leaving Mitzrayim, getting away from Avodah Zarah, getting away from Mitzrayim. And the second stage was bonding with Hashem by Matan Torah. And the 50 days in the middle, that was sort of the transition. Remember the story I told you about the wagon? You need 2 steps to get off the ground and 2 steps to get into the wagon. So the same idea. This is letting go of where I was and then bonding and connecting deeply in the new place. And then in the middle, you have sort of a transition stage. Yes, Amy?
It's like carving out the thing of the log, or it's like carving
Like
out.
the carving out, the 2 carvings also. Same idea, right?
How is the second stage seichel, like Matan Torah, like, what way is that seichel? Because we kind of were just.
Torah.
Right, but also we were kind of just like thrown into it and like Hashem hold it on top of our heads and obviously.
Right, but the whole idea of Torah is Hashem. What does it say in Chumash? That this is the wisdom, this is God's wisdom that He's giving us. The whole Torah is actually, of course, we accept it Mitzad Amunah, but the Torah is the most the wisdom of Hashem, the wisdom of the world, the wisdom of creation, the wisdom of everything that exists. In fact, all the wisdoms are included in Torah: the wisdom of science and the wisdom of math and the wisdom of everything that exists. The 7 wisdoms, they're all included in Torah. One of the things the Rebbe is particular about when you do Mivtzayim is to give people handmade round matzahs, because you could buy square matzahs, machine made. So there's a little question in halacha about machine matzahs. Not everybody fit, because the question is, could you make sure that there's not a speck of dough stuck to a machine? But whatever, it's kosher 100%, and people eat machine matzah, but still it's better to eat the hand matzah. Not only because of Kasha's question, but obviously it's more similar to what Yidden had when they were in Mitzrayim, because researchers found that they didn't have these machines in Mitzrayim. So they say that in Egypt it was handmade matzahs. You went to the bakery yesterday? Yes. That's what it looked like in Mitzrayim, the same way. It reminds you of Mitzrayim, right? When you see them in this dark, dungy place with a thing. So basically, that's hand matzah. What's so important about Shmura matzah? We also know it's a question of halacha. Shmura matzah means that not only do you make sure, you probably saw that room where they have one person with the water and he's locked into one room. The other person with the flour, he's locked into another room. They can't even touch each other. And then in the middle, this one pours in the water, closes the window. That one pours in the flour, closes the window. From the moment the water and flour touch, you count 18 minutes. Shmura matzah is not that. Shmura matzah is that you're already protected from water as soon as you cut it off, as soon as you take it off the field. Years ago, it was a much more difficult task because they didn't know the weather in advance. So they made plans to go work on the field to cut the wheat. And when it rained, they went back home. Tomorrow, went back home. Today, we know in advance when's going to be a good day to go down to cut it. So that's shmura matzah. But why is it so important to be round matzah? So the roundness in Chassidus, we know there's a lot of things that have to do with round, with a circle. Like we just mentioned a wedding, the kala circles around the chassan. And similarly, on Simchas Torah, we're also celebrating our wedding with Hashem. We also circle. Hakafas means circling. We go around 7 times, like a kala goes around 7 times. And then on Sukkot, you also have the Heshynus, where you take the lulav and the esrog and you go around the 7 times in a circle. Every day 1 time, and the last day 7 times. What is this circle business? And it says also that you can really do the marriage with money. Just like the husband gives the wife a ring, why can't he give her a coin or give her $1,000 and a piece of gold? No, dafka a ring, because it's round. The same thing again. It should be dafka a ring, not another piece of jewelry. So the inyan is that roundness represents infinity. In Kabbalah, the word for infinity is igulim. They have it on the page, number 8. Igulim is the plural for circles. Singular is igul. Igul means a circle. Igulim means circles. So in Kabbalah, when it talks about this realm where there's the infinite light of Hashem, it's called igulim. The finite light of Hashem is compared to a line, a straight line. Yeah.
Can I share a cute story? I've changed my voice. Can I share a cute story about my brother? When I came home from campus last year, my shluchim had given me a lot of like shmur matzah, because I got like all the leftovers. Anyways, so Leroy tried the shmur matzah, which was different to the ones that we bought. And he holds the box and he goes, I can feel the spirituality that this one's nicer. But he just liked that it was like more expensive. He goes, I can feel it. He starts eating it. Like,
Yeah, especially when you break a tooth, oh, this is very special. Strong, very powerful matzah. So therefore, it means that the Gashmis, when we make a circle, we're sort of making some sort of a vessel, a keli, for the infinite light to be drawn down. A marriage is always an infinite light. First of all, because it's infinite. What does it mean, infinite? People get married, they bring children into the world, the children bring children, the children bring children. So from Adam Arisha, it continues, and it could continue forever. So there's an infinite light that's brought down in the marriage. And the same thing is with Torah. The reason why we do the circle is because it's something infinite. And Emunah is infinite. Seichel is finite. If a person's bond with Hashem is based on Seichel, it's a limited bond. If a person's bond with Hashem is based on Emunah, it's infinite. It's unconditional. Because Emunah, it comes from a deeper place of the soul. And Emunah doesn't accept any questions. And Emunah is not weakened by any questions. It's an absolute emes, and I don't need answers. I need research. I don't need to understand. I just know this is emes, that Hashem hu Elokim, and that's it. So basically, Emunah is something which is represented by the roundness, and that's why when you have the matzahs that are round, any matzah will bring Emunah. But the fact that it's physically round also means that it's more sort of conducive for this Emunah to be revealed through the matzah that I eat. Number 9 is Raya Mehemna. I'm hoping that you remember what that is from the Atat Tzava Maimer.
Faithful shepherd.
So who's it referring to?
Moshe.
And what does it mean, Raya Mehemna?
That he was a shepherd of faith.
Right. Not only a faithful shepherd, but a shepherd of faith. That we get Amunah from the Nasi Adar. The Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation, he's the one that feeds us with Amunah, gives us the strength to have Amunah. So I think we covered everything on that in terms of matzah. I don't know if I showed it to you last time. Look at page 36. If you would open the Zohar, you would actually see there are certain pages that on the top of the page it says Raya Mehemna. And that means that these words, even though they're in the Zohar, which is written by Shimon Bar Yochai, but these words where it says on top Raya Mehemna were written by Moshe Rabbeinu. So we always knew that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the Chumash. We also knew that he wrote the first bracha in Berachas Hamazon. There's another thing that he wrote. He wrote these things in Aramaic, and it's incorporated in the Zohar. Okay, the next thing we'll learn is about chametz. This explains why there's a mitzvah to eat matzah. Then we'll learn about why is it an aveira to eat chametz. To be continued. Wishing everybody a wonderful, amazing Shabbos Mevorchim, Chodesh Nisan. And again, we should see the results in before Shabbos. Shabbos is important, or Tillim is important.
No, this Shabbos is important.
Very big Shabbos, yeah.
Yeah, go to show.
Thank you.
You're convinced.
Nice to see you back.